I must rise above the flames.
Welcome back, Flick Knaves. I'm Lupinefiasco, this is Daily FaB Gameplay, and today we are playing Cindra, Dracai of Retribution. For anyone who is new to the channel, welcome to the Empire. What we do here is review replays of games I played on the Talishar.net client days or weeks ago, after enough time has passed that I lose my bias and can more objectively judge the quality of my games. I will talk through turn cycles as if I were taking them now, giving my thought process for the lines I would take, and comparing those to the lines I did take at the time of recording. We either learn from my mistakes or reinforce good play patterns with the overall goal of tightening and optimizing our gameplay in the future to take down paper events and walk away with that shiny, shiny cardboard. If you like what you see and would like to try this deck for yourself on Talishar, there is a FaB deck link in the video description below. While you're down there, if you haven't already done so, please consider subscribing to my YouTube channel. It is the best free way to support me and to make sure that you see every new episode of Daily FaB Gameplay in your YouTube feed. I also have a Blue Sky, a Discord, and a Patreon, links to which are in the video description. Patrons at the Arc Lightning tier or higher will get access to all of my matchup guides for all of my deck lists forever, including this one. Now, without further ado, let's jump right into the gameplay. This is it, folks. This is the last Cindra game for a while, maybe ever. Next week we will be picking up with the other Draconic Ninja. I've got some FaB games queued up, ready to review. Had a good amount of time with Cindra, some fun with the hero. Just not really my favorite, not really my jam. Not to say that I won't play her for Pro Tour London. She's obviously very good. She's very strong. She punishes decks that really want to force her to interact, because it is very hard to make her interact. She can threaten Mask Momentum off of 3 cards. She can also do it off of 2 if one of them is Ignite. Just a very difficult hero to play around, but she just isn't as dynamic to me as a hero like Aurora. Not really my cup of tea. In the new matchup, a few things we want to think about are that New plays Passover and her Sacred Art Undercurrent Desires, both of which banish cards from the graveyard at instant speed and can be played in reaction to a Cindra activation. So what we really want to avoid is leaving our daggers in the graveyard at the end of our turn. Now, we're still going to use our Flick Knives to push Mask Momentum triggers. We are still going to look to get those Blood-Splattered Vest triggers, but what we want to avoid is something like Fire Tenet, Ronin Renegade, Blaze Headlong, Flick Knives Pass. We want to pick up our daggers from graveyard on our turn, so that if New is going to play Passover or Sacred Art, which she will do, she doesn't get to Transcend unless she plays 2 Transcend instants on our turn. But it is a lot easier for her to do something like Persuasive Prognosis, Passover on her turn, and then use the Chi for Mask of Recurring Nightmares, than it is for her to pass over on our turn and then play Persuasive Prognosis on hers. She wouldn't get the Chi from Transcending, she wouldn't get to use Mask. Outside of that, we don't know off the top of the game if our New is Count Your Blessings or not. It doesn't really matter. We're still just doing Cindra things, aside from being a little more mindful with our daggers. We are pushing Mask of Momentum triggers. We are paying attention to what our opponent has pitched or has in graveyard. As a rule, I am not trying to arsenal anything that isn't a defense reaction. My opponent has 3 Leave No Witnesses and 3 CNCs, but they only have 3 Codexes of Frailty. So we're just playing the numbers game. They have 6 ways to mess with our arsenal and 3 ways to mess with us not having one. So staying off of arsenal as much as possible is just going to let you ignore more of what the assassin is doing. Outside of that, we have exactly 1 piece of armor that we can use to block Persuasive Prognosis at any point in the game besides the end. So you're probably not blocking with armor, you're probably not blocking from hand unless it's a defense reaction. We just don't block, and the onus is on New to slow us down enough that we don't just run her over. So we did win the die roll this game. We did choose to go second. That invalidates a lot of New's disruption. she could take our entire hand from us and we just draw up to 4 at the end of her turn. So really going second against assassin, any assassin, is a pretty big benefit. This hand is really good. I would love to keep it if I could, but I do want to just block if I can. The most important card in this hand is Ronin Renegade, which is why I hate that I'm blocking with it here. It's our only Draconic starter, and we can get there with Fire Tenant and Blaze Headlong, but that just messes with our sequencing. The best sequencing for a Mask of Momentum is to send our smaller attacks on Chain Links 1 and 2, and then our larger attack on Chain Link 3. So with that Ronin Renegade, I could have sequenced such as Ronin Renegade, Fire Tenant, Blaze Headlong, 3-3-5. But if, for example, I had to play this hand, or if we draw something like a Lava Burst off the top of my deck, then my line is Fire Tenant, Burning Blade Dance, well, Fire Tenant, Blaze Headlong, Burning Blade Dance, which is 3-5-3. It's much easier for Nu to block Chain Link 3 than it would be in that 3-3-5 line. So I hate that we blocked with the Ronin Renegade there. It's our only Draconic starter, which would have given us a lot more flexibility if we get to hold on to this Blaze Headlong. That said, we're getting faced down by a Double Trouble, so I do want to block with 2 of these cards. I don't want to give my entire hand to Nu. I would like to be a little mindful of just letting her banish my cards. Fatigue is a real possibility in this matchup, so I'm fine to block with Burning Blade Dance and Blaze Headlong. Again, I want to keep a natural starter, and while Fire Tenant is not Draconic, it is better than just pitching a Burning Blade Dance to a dagger if we happen to draw into 3 more Lava Vein loyalties. So Nu gets us with the Double Trouble, banishes 2 off the top of the deck. The damage doesn't matter. Losing the cards doesn't really matter. The fact that we get a Venomous Bite out of her is honestly pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it. We'll see what we draw into, and if that hand is playable. Again, really wish that I had the Ronin Renegade here instead of the Fire Tenant, and we can kind of see why. This hand is not very good, really, regardless. We don't have an easy way to trigger Mask of Momentum. We're going to play First Strike, Blaze Headlong, and I would like to pitch Wax On to play Art of Dragonfire. I can get there with Kunai and Blood Splattered Vest, which I believe is what I end up doing. The problem with that is I'm not picking up my dagger at the end of the turn, and like I said, that's really bad. Sometimes it's unavoidable, but in this situation, we could Fire Tenant, Blaze Headlong, pitch Wax On to play Art of Dragonfire, and especially if the Art of Dragonfire hits, we are not taking an intellect penalty. By using Flick Knives Vest here, we potentially do take an intellect penalty if this Art of Dragon hits. We draw a card, we arsenal the Wax On, and then we only draw 3 cards at the end of our turn instead of 4. But we are also now going down a dagger, and if Nu has Passover or Undercurrent Desires in her hand, and a blue attack that can transcend with it, then Nu gets her chi value, and we also lose a dagger. The hand that we draw into, fortunately, is not bad. We can Oath of Loyalty, Hot on Their Heels, Brand with Cinderclaw, Flick Knives, Vest, Breaking Point, Threaten Nu's Arsenal. We will have played at least 3 Draconic attacks, so we get to Cindra at the end of the turn. If Nu has Undercurrent Desires, then we probably lose the game on the spot. But at this point, that is unavoidable, and if Nu does not have a reaction for this Leave No Witnesses, then threatening her Arsenal is the best thing that we can do with this hand. We are just going to block with the Wax On from Arsenal. It's nice that we kept it. At the same time, if we had pitched it to play Art of Dragonfire on our last turn, and Nu blocked the Dragonfire we don't draw with Mask of Momentum, then this Leave No Witnesses deals 4 damage to us. Because we're not blocking, it doesn't take our arsenal because we don't have an arsenal to take. So you can see why here we get rewarded for playing the Wax On, for keeping it so that we get to play it in block 5. But at the same time, we could have just not been in danger, and we wouldn't have to worry about, well, is this last card in Nu's hand Passover? Could she have potentially sequenced better to banish our dagger, and then we're down a dagger? But that already happened. We're in this spot now, so we are just going to play out Oath of Loyalty, Hot on Their Heels, Brand with Cinderclaw. The reason I want to do Hot on Their Heels second rather than third is that Hot on Their Heels has an on-hit effect. If New can only block with one card from her hand this turn, I want her to do it on the Mask of Momentum chain link, which means that the Hot on Their Heels will hit. Generally, it is bad practice to stack your on-hits on the same attack, because our opponent gets more value by blocking. If we switch this, and this is the Hot on Their Heels, then New gets to prevent the mark and prevent the Mask of Momentum trigger, whereas if we sequence the way that we did, then we get a fealty out of the deal. So we are going to flick the second dagger, we are going to stay in counter to make a resource, we're going to throw a breaking point for 5 and threaten New's arsenal. She can give us a 3 block and both pieces of armor. We're going to Cindra here. Thankfully, we do not get punished by Sacred Art. And the hand that we draw into is pretty good. It's just a little strange. We're not blocking really anything ever, if we can get away with it. This is certainly not a time that we want to use our flight path, because the Spider's Bite has piercing, and the fact that it reduces the power of the block value of all of our attacks doesn't matter, because we're not going to block with any of them. So New does get to draw a card from her Art of Desire. She doesn't have an action point, so she would need Path Well Traveled, which she apparently doesn't have, and she does just take an intellect penalty, which is fine with us. Sequencing here is weird because we cannot discount Art of Dragonfire with Ignite unless we use a fealty. The reason being that we need to play Ignite before we make Art of Dragonfire Draconic. The easiest way to make Art of Dragonfire Draconic is by playing Brand with Cinderclaw. But if we go Ignite, Brand, Art of Dragonfire, the Ignite discounts the Brand with Cinderclaw. And if we go Brand with Cinderclaw, Ignite, Art of Dragonfire, the Brand makes the Ignite Draconic and not the Art of Dragonfire. So there are 2 ways to resolve the problem. The first would be that we pitch our yellow Brand with Cinderclaw to attack with a dagger, then play Ignite, Brand with Cinderclaw, really just burn the value of Ignite, but we float a resource and get to play Art of Dragonfire with its Draconic type and deal 2 points of damage. Or we do something like Brand with Cinderclaw, Ignite. While Ignite is on the stack, we activate Fealty so that our Art of Dragonfire is Draconic, and then Ignite does discount Art of Dragonfire. So which line is best? I believe the best line is to pitch Brand to attack with the dagger and then float a resource, and there are 2 reasons for this. The first is that we get to keep our fealty by taking that line, because if we play both Brands, then Ignite, then Dragonfire, we have to use our fealty. We have seen an Art of Dragon Blood that was banished off the top, but there are 2 more Bloods in our deck, 1 more Fire, and still plenty of hands that we could draw into where we just don't have the Draconic links to return a kunai at the end of our turn, and we really value being able to do that. So my ideal sequence for this turn would be pitch yellow Brand to dagger, Ignite, red Brand, Art of Dragonfire. That is the second reason that I really like this sequencing, is that it makes our Mask of Momentum more powerful. We sequence 1, 2, 3, 5, whereas if we play our Brands, then we're looking at something like 2, 3, 2, 5, or 3, 2, 2, 5. It's just much easier for New to block those. Maybe she has 3 Codex of Frailty in hand and really wants to block with some of them. And so if we just tee her up with some 2-power attacks, then she is more easily able to stop our Mask of Momentum trigger, whereas if we lead with the dagger, New probably doesn't block it. If we then play Ignite, maybe New blocks that, we flick Knives, and then we play Brand with Cinderclaw, and it's 3 power, so it at least asks for a 3 power from 3 block card from New rather than a 2. I don't doubt that New can easily stop our Mask of Momentum trigger this turn, but we don't want to make it that easy for her. We do want to at least make her have to work for it, and this line really doesn't do that. I'm choosing what I believe is the bad line because we have to use our fealty here, as opposed to not using our fealty, and I'm going to undo this. This is a good time to talk about the interaction between Ignite and fealty. So Ignite's text says that the next Draconic card that you play or activate costs 1 less. Fealty is a Draconic card. So what you want to happen here is that you play Ignite, you activate Fealty, Fealty makes Art of Dragonfire Draconic, and Ignite discounts Art of Dragonfire. But you can't just do that. You can't say play Ignite, deal 2 damage, activate Fealty, play Art of Dragonfire, because the Ignite is discounting the Fealty, which means that the Ignite ability is used up. So the Art of Dragonfire does not get a discount, and if this is the situation you put yourself in at a Road to Nationals, or a Calling, or a Pro Quest, something with competitive rule enforcement, your opponent can say, my opponent activated Fealty at the wrong time, that used the Ignite. And there's a very good chance that the judge will not let you walk that back, and you will have just wasted your Fealty and your Art of Dragonfire. So the way that you get around that little interaction is that you play Ignite, hold priority, and while your Ignite is on the stack, you activate Fealty. This is because while Ignite is on the stack, its effect is not active yet, and because the Ignite is on the stack, the Fealty doesn't make it Draconic, it makes the next thing Draconic. Just to repeat that, because it's an important little interaction between Ignite and Fealty, the correct phrasing for that play is, I play Ignite, hold priority, activate Fealty, and that will let you Ignite Art of Dragonfire for a 2-card 9, as opposed to Ignite, Fealty, Arsenal my Art of Dragonfire. The Fealty goes through. The Ignite here is threatening Mask of Momentum. Neither chain link before the Ignite was blocked, so New clearly wants to keep a large hand. That's fine with us. If she does block this, we get to Flick Knives. Because she doesn't block it, we are not going to Flick Knives. We can just hold the Flick Knives. I still want to do it. This is my 4th Draconic chain link, so we're in a situation where we can flick the dagger and then immediately activate Cindra, which we will do. We don't need to vest here. As much as I want to stay off Arsenal in this matchup, this is a situation where I'm not going to break my flight path to give my Art of Dragonfire go again just so I can play a Lava Vein Loyalty. If New has the Arsenal Destruction, she has the Arsenal Destruction. I'm not going to worry about that. We should just block the Prognosis here with Flight Path. It's pretty unlikely that one block covers this Prognosis. New kept 5 cards. So I am imagining that she has at least 1 pump. If nothing else, she has Tunic, Arousing Wave to get Prognosis over the top of Flight Path. But just in case her actual play is like Path Well Traveled, Command and Conquer or something, I want to at least make her work for it. We don't lose the Flight Path by blocking with it. We do need to block with it at some point. We really can't get around double Justinic. That line is just going to get you. Unfortunately, New banishes several actions off the top of the deck. Our deck is mostly red actions, so it's pretty unlikely that she would have ever missed that. But, you don't know, maybe she hits Ancestral Empowerment and doesn't just gain a bunch of life. And of course, we aren't going to block the Art of Desire Body because it's new. If we block with Lava Vein Loyalty, then the Lava Vein Loyalty does get banished and New gets the Art of Desire Body effect anyway. So we'll just take 3 damage. New really closes the life gap pretty significantly. She does banish our Lava Burst from hand rather than our Ravenous Rabble, which is really good for us because this hand now converts into just a little more damage. We still don't have a Draconic starter, so we're going to need to pitch Lava Vein Loyalty to attack with Kunai, but then we get to follow that with Lava Vein Loyalty from Arsenal and Ravenous Rabble, which is probably 4 damage. If New doesn't block the dagger, then the Lava Vein Loyalty is online, as maintaining our Mask of Momentum. We can Flick Knives if New blocks the Lava Vein. This is a situation where I want to use my Vest because I only have 2 Draconic chain links and I don't want to leave a dagger in my graveyard on New's turn. This is also a situation where if I had a Fealty, I would use it on the Ravenous Rabble so that I could pick up my dagger. And at this point, I'm pretty sure I just didn't consider that while I was playing out that turn. We are just at New's mercy and hoping that she doesn't have the Passover or Undercurrent Desire, and it seems that she doesn't, or at least if she does, she's not going to be able to transcend with it. So the second time in this game that we haven't been punished by leaving a dagger in our graveyard on Nu's turn, but still a mistake, because if Nu does have the Passover, that is a pretty big punish. Nu Erase Facing for 6 here. Erase Face, in my opinion, is a good call against Cindra. It isn't that she can't easily block it, because she can. Cindra plays a lot of 3 blocks. Erase Face is good because if we get hit by it, the effect is very relevant, and even though we can block it, in a 4-card hand, we block 6, and it is unlikely that we can threaten Mask of Momentum with 2 cards. Now this hand would let us threaten Mask. We can Ignite, Kunai, Brand with Cinderclaw, and that threatens the Mask of Momentum trigger off of 2 cards, but most of the time, that is not something Cindra is able to do, which means that the Nu has an opportunity to catch up. Now this hand is really good into Erase Face, because we get to abuse Erase Face, taking away our Draconic type line, but unlike a card like Spinal Crush that says card lose and can't gain go again, Erase Face doesn't say anything about gaining Draconic. So what we can do with this hand is, for one thing, block with Ancestral Empowerment, because while Brand with Cinderclaw will make Art of Dragon Fire Draconic, we cannot make anything Ninja. So what we should do here is block with Ancestral Empowerment, and I'm about to undo this lack of block in order to put the Empowerment in front of Erase Face. But what we get to do with the other 3 cards is we can play Ignite, which still has its text. We then play Brand with Cinderclaw, which is not Draconic, but makes our next attack Draconic. And then we play Art of Dragon Fire, which will deal 2 damage because it's Draconic, but will also get the discount effect of Ignite. So the Erase Phase actually does let us make the play that we were unable to make 2 or 3 turns ago with our Ignite, Brand with Cinderclaw, Art of Dragonfire, because Erase Phase took away the Draconic text from Brand, but does not prevent us from giving Draconic text to Art of Dragonfire. This is also threatening Mask of Momentum because we're presenting 3 chain links. So the Erase Phase here, while good, I would have loved to be able to hold on to that Ancestral Empowerment to maybe Ignite, Kunai, Brand with Cinderclaw, play Ancestral Empowerment on the Brand, draw a card, pitch that card to Art of Dragonfire, or maybe flick, use Vest. It does let us abuse the interaction between Ignite, Brand, and Art of Dragonfire. We draw into an Oath of Loyalty, which we of course can't play, and then we draw into a really wonky hand with Brand with Cinderclaw and Hot on Their Heels, but also 2 defense reactions. So between Oath of Loyalty, Brand, and Hot on Their Heels, we do get to threaten a Mask of Momentum trigger. It isn't very impressive because our sequencing says that we go 4-3-3, we can't avoid it. And while we would like to present more damage with a 5-card hand, we at least get to be defensive against 4-card Persuasive Prognosis. So between these 2 defense reactions, we can block 9. We've seen 2 Justinics. It isn't unreasonable to think that Nu might have the 3rd. So let's really think about, as far as damage, what is the worst case scenario here? Persuasive Prognosis plus Justinic plus Venomous Bite plus Arousing Wave. If Nu has Venomous Bite and Justinic in hand, Venomous Bite in arsenal, and a blue in hand, that would be 5 plus 4 is 9, plus 10 plus 1 is 10, plus 1 from Prognosis is 11. We can block 11 by blocking with Mask of Momentum, Shelter from the Storm, and Wax On. What happens if Nu only has Justinic and Persuasive is only coming in for 6? Well, then we're blocking with Mask of Momentum and Wax On. What if the Persuasive Prognosis is only buffed by Venomous Bite and it becomes 5? Well, then Mask of Momentum and Shelter from the Storm block for 6, which gets us around the Arousing Wave. And if we Oath of Loyalty, Hot on Their Heels, Brand with Cinderclaw, Nu is low enough that she is going to have to block. We would not get our Mask of Momentum trigger anyway, but even if we could, Nu would block. We would not draw a card, and then we just arsenal whatever defense reaction we don't play. So the correct block here, in my opinion, is Mask of Momentum for 2, and then we just have a defense reaction for whatever New does after that. Maybe her line is play something like Path Well Traveled, Grain That Tips the Scale, some other Transcend card, and pitches to Mask of Recurring Nightmare. We just banish one of our 2 defense reactions. So New really going off here, getting the Persuasive Prognosis up to 5. Blocking with Shelter here is a mistake because New has 1 floating resource for a Rousing Wave. We should block this with Wax On so that we can hold on to our Shelter from the Storm. New uses the Arousing Wave, pushes Prognosis up to 6. We are going to need to play Wax On here. Now Wax On brings us up to 10. That still does not get us over Justinic if New has it. This is just Art of Desire Body. And now this Desire Body is going to hit. We banish a card from the top of the deck. New gains a life, draws a card, arsenals it. If we had blocked the Prognosis for 5 with our Wax On instead of the Shelter, then we have a defense reaction to block that Art of Desire Body. New doesn't get an arsenal, is at 5, and we're just in a better situation. So a really mishandled turn by me. Nice that I had the defense reactions, but poor blocking the Blood Splattered Fest instead of the Mask of Momentum, and then even poorer blocking with Shelter from the Storm instead of Wax On, where New is showing us that she has a Rousing Wave. That wasn't like we didn't put her on Grain That Tips the Scale and then she had it. We knew that New had a Rousing Wave. So really bungled that one. I mean, we are still ahead on life. Our deck is looking a little thin. We are going to get to push damage. This is not a situation where I want to flick knives. We could think about it. New blocked the Hot on Their Heels and the Brand with Cinderclaw, so if her hand is Undercurrent Desire and a blue, then she would get to banish our daggers, but also just doesn't have a turn. Even so, if that is her play, I would rather punish her for aggressively giving away her cards on defense by just not flicking here. We don't need to. We don't get anything besides the 1 point of damage, so let's just not flick, activate Cindra, play around the Undercurrent Desire, and then have both of our daggers. Here we get immediately punished for losing our vest, because we draw a 1 cost that we cannot easily play. We cannot get up to 2 Draconic Links, which is what we would need to banish Hunt the Hunter with the Rising Resentment effect, unless we were going to pitch Fire Tenant to attack with a dagger, and if we do that, we lose 3 points of damage, because Fire Tenant, Rising Resentment, Display Loyalty is a 3-card 10, as opposed to a 3-card 7 if we pitch Fire Tenant. So here, I believe our line should just be Fire Tenant, Rising Resentment, Display Loyalty, Flick Knives, Activate Cindra, pitch Hunt the Hunter, get our dagger back. We push a 4-card 11, which is definitely not good, but New is only at an effective 8 health with her armor. So we don't need to make these big, flashy, high-risk plays anymore. We can play below rate because New is at a part of the game where she just needs to start aggressively blocking, and that's good for us. We're never going to hit with Mask of Momentum again, so it is just 2 block. We're in a bit of an undo loop here. So I'll just keep talking. We can just put New on being dead to Flick Knives. She's not played Homage yet. We've seen over half of her deck without Count Your Blessings, so I'm pretty sure she is not on Count Your Blessings. She's effectively at 7 health that she can interact with. So if we can just Flick Knives every turn of the game, New will die. If she's giving us her entire hand on defense, which she kind of has to do every turn. And even if we Flick Knives pitch to Cindra, I mean, we only have 19 cards left in our deck. New still has some double trouble. She has Leave No Witnesses. There are Surgicals left. She is going to continue to banish cards from the top of our deck. We're looking a little thin as far as fatigue goes, so if I'm pitching cards, it really isn't the worst thing in the world. It keeps my deck size a little healthier, and just lets me push more damage with Flick Knives every turn while playing around Passover and Undercurrent Desire. Art of Desire Mind here is absolutely worthless. It does banish a card off the top of our deck, which is relevant. We are after this 14 cards in deck to Nu's 35. If she can just sustain long enough, we will lose the game. But we play 0 blues in our deck against Nu, so Art of Desire Mind is never going to trigger. What is the best way to sequence this turn? There are a few ways. Again, we can pitch our Brand with Cinderclaw to attack with Kunai, then play Display Loyalty, Burning Blade Dance, and Hunt the Hunter. We don't need to play Breaking Point here because Nu doesn't have an arsenal, so Hunt the Hunter does something, Breaking Point does not. We could also play Brand with Cinderclaw, Display Loyalty, Burning Blade Dance, then pitch Breaking Point to attack with Hunt the Hunter. In this case, I really like pitching Brand with Cinderclaw. As much as I have been saying stay off Arsenal, Nu is low enough that she's going to have to block a full card on Display Loyalty, Burning Blade Dance, and probably 2 on Hunt the Hunter. We get to Flick Knives this turn, depending on how Nu is blocking, and if I think she has Undercurrent Desire. Passover here is just kind of too late to be relevant. So if Nu takes 1 from the dagger, gives us a full card on display, a full card for Burning Blade Dance, and a full card on Hunt the Hunter, I mean, she dies because the Flick Knives kills her. If she gives us 2 cards on Hunt the Hunter to stay alive, we Arsenal Breaking Point, and Nu just doesn't have a play. We set up a 5-card hand for next turn. We also just haven't seen a Codex yet. So if I'm arsenaling cards, even if I'm leaving myself open to leave no witnesses, then we're still ahead because we have the life total that we could just get hit by leave no witnesses, lose our arsenal, and then have 4 cards and kill Nu. So arsenaling, Breaking Point here, totally fine. Pitching Brand with Cinderclaw in order to play out the Hunt the Hunter and get a Kunai in is fine. We are able to punch through the damage prevention from Shelter from the Storm, put Nu down to 2. We have both of our daggers, so even if our turns are just play an attack, Flick Knives, play an attack, Flick Knives, we will win. Nu only has Homage to Ancestors left, so I guess we would need a 3rd turn, but I believe that we can get there. And this is a really good hand to do it. We draw Blood Runs Deep, which will deal 2 damage that you cannot interact with unless she has Shelter from the Storm. The sequencing here is pretty simple. We're going to open by breaking a fealty and then playing Fire Tenant Strike first. Then we play Display Loyalty. That is 2 Draconic Chain Links, so Blood Runs Deep gets discounted to 0. Then we can pitch our Take the Tempo to play Breaking Point from Arsenal. As a reaction, we can activate Cindra, buy back both of our daggers, and then flick 1. So over the course of this turn, we are not only taking Nu's entire hand with 3, 4, 2, 5, we are also dealing 3 points of unpreventable, uninteractable damage, unblockable damage. Nu can prevent it, but it takes exactly Shelter from the Storm, and if she's turning her defense reaction into a 3 block, I'm just up on value. Notably, she would need to have the Shelter in hand to discard it to prevent the 3 daggers, which means that she only has 1 card to block Blood Runs Deep and Take the Tempo, both of which, and Breaking Point, both of which present lethal. So the game has ended. At this point, Nu is just dead to really anything. We aren't going to go through the motions of Cindra Flick Knives. Our opponent is dead. They have no way out. So we will just end the game instead. So it's sort of a close game. I think the Nu had some bad beats that game. The Bonds of Agonies never lined up. She never played a Leave No Witnesses. I don't believe there was ever a Command and Conquer, never a Codex, so things kind of just went well for us. But I had a few prominent misplays that definitely could have given us a loss if Nu's turn cycles had gone a little better, so I wanted to show this game really as an example of what not to do. There's some pretty easy mistakes to fix. Namely, being more conservative with daggers when we don't get to pick them up at the end of the turn. That's a big no-no against Nu. Also, just being very thoughtless with our defense reactions. We did have ways to prevent Nu from getting value, especially on our Shelter from the Storm Wax On turn, that just even an extra second of thought lets us realize New has a rousing wave. We need to play Wax on, not Shelter. So some pretty simple mistakes that you can take with you into your last week of RTNs and hopefully give Cindra some more LL points. I'll be playing this weekend in my last event at King Kong Games in Dublin, California. I'll be bringing Aurora, as you all know, my favorite hero, something I've already won with, hoping to get another black envelope, or at least some elo. If you are playing in an RTN this weekend, good luck. If you haven't gotten qualified for Nationals yet, I hope that this is your weekend. Otherwise, enjoy this video. I hope you did. I hope you learned something. If so, hit that like button. My comments are always open for any questions or feedback. If you haven't already done so, please consider a YouTube subscription. They are free. They help me out a lot. I have a Blue Sky, a Discord, and a Patreon, all of which can be found in the video description below. As I said, next week we're playing FaB. I know a lot of you are excited about that. I have a pretty interesting list that I've been cooking up, and I'm excited to show off some of those games. So, have a great weekend of RTNs, and until the next time I see you, take care.